My toddler mentioned an uncle. That's how I exposed the affair greetings. It's time for another extraordinary tale from our universe. Have you ever found yourself reflecting on the chaos of your life, only to read someone else's narrative and feel a sense of relief wash over you? Today in our space, we address the topic of stranger danger. Cheating wife was taking our daughter to her fair partner's house. I revealed his wrongdoings and secured full custody. I typically consider myself a gentle and easygoing individual, but the past few days have challenged me in ways I never thought possible. I found it necessary to step away from my home to ensure I wouldn't act impulsively. I am a father to an amazing 3-year-old daughter, and she means everything to me. I prioritize her safety above all else and am committed to doing whatever it takes to ensure her protection. Upon discovering that my wife was recklessly putting her in danger, I completely lost my composure. My wife Olivia, 29, and I, 31, have enjoyed 5 years of marriage together. Our introduction came courtesy of a mutual friend who facilitated the connection. I am a skilled artisan, specializing in metalsmithing, which means I dedicate a significant amount of my time to my workshop, often working independently without colleagues. I am grateful for the assistance of a matchmaker. We connected instantly. Our initial encounter was electrifying, leading us to arrange a second date within the same week. We were utterly captivated by one another. Nothing changed after we tied the knot. Our love remained as intense as ever, and our bond grew ever closer. Shortly thereafter, we welcomed our daughter into the world. Despite the significant changes in our lives, we have consistently prioritized our time together. As far as I could discern, we never grew distant, so I remain uncertain about where things began to unravel. I'm uncertain about the precise moment she concluded that it was necessary to begin cheating. It is essential to clarify the details of our living arrangement. She performs data entry and began working from home following the arrival of her baby. I am a metalsmith, crafting smaller pieces from my home bench while utilizing a workshop for my larger projects. The larger projects typically cover expenses, which is why I find myself in my workshop for the majority of the week. My daughter is an expressive young child with a vibrant imagination. There is nothing unusual for a child of her age. However, I found it peculiar when she began mentioning an uncle. We might be engaged in play or sharing a story, and she mentioned that she read the book while her uncle was present. What was truly peculiar was the reality that she has no uncles. I grew up as an only child, and my wife has just one sister. She had encountered a few male friends of mine, yet she refrained from referring to any of them as uncle. Initially, I considered the possibility of it being a scenario involving an imaginary friend. However, I found it peculiar to entertain the idea that a child would invent an imaginary uncle. My curiosity got the better of me, so I decided to make a post on Reddit to see if anyone else's child had experienced the same thing. I was taken aback by several comments implying that my wife could be unfaithful. There have been reports of young children inadvertently revealing affairs by mentioning the name of a parent's affair partner. I intended to dismiss that with laughter. It seemed implausible, yet I cannot deny that a similar thought had crossed my mind previously. I contemplated that for approximately a day, seeking to determine the best course of action. Our relationship seemed wonderful, and I had no grounds to doubt her fidelity, aside from the situation with her uncle. However, it was so peculiar and difficult to articulate that it provided a compelling reason to investigate further. Initially, I inquired with my daughter regarding her uncle, but her responses did not provide any clarity. I decided to approach Olivia regarding the matter and observe her response. That was the catalyst for my decision to investigate the possibility that she could be unfaithful. I did not make any accusations against her. One evening during our conversation, I inquired if she had observed our daughter mentioning an uncle. She averted her gaze as she remarked that she had noticed it and was certain it held no significance. I found it concerning that she was so quick to dismiss the topic, so I chose not to let it rest. I expressed my thoughts on the peculiar situation of her discussing an uncle she did not possess. She dismissed it once more, suggesting that her vivid imagination was to blame and that she likely derived it from cartoons. Throughout the entire duration, her gaze was averted from mine. While it didn't fully validate my suspicions, it provided me with a sufficient rationale to investigate further. I took the opportunity to examine her phone. It quickly became apparent that she was engaged in an affair. Whenever I was at my workshop, she would bring a man to the house. On occasion, when I informed her of my late plans, she would visit his residence, taking our daughter along with her. I find it challenging to articulate the extent of my anger regarding that situation. Discovering my wife's infidelity was profoundly heartbreaking. I believed our relationship was flawless, and the thought of infidelity had never crossed my mind as a concern. At this moment, I held the undeniable evidence in my grasp. However, the reality that she was involving my daughter in this situation was even more concerning. I was unfamiliar with this individual. I was unable to assure her safety in his presence. I felt a sense of relief that Olivia was in the other room as I was on the verge of losing my composure. I felt an overwhelming urge to hurl her phone against the wall, march over to her, and unleash my frustration with a scream. I inhaled deeply and centered myself. I forwarded the messages to myself for a more thorough review. I aimed to ensure that I had all the information clarified before approaching her regarding the matter. I too have been contemplating the possibility of divorce. Infidelity was an offense I found impossible to overlook, but putting my child's safety at risk transcended all boundaries. I had very little sleep that night. I dedicated the entire evening to reviewing the messages I had forwarded to myself. She had been unfaithful to me for 3 months, although their conversations had begun a bit earlier than that. However, I was taken aback to discover that I was not particularly concerned about the infidelity. I sought to understand the nature of the man with whom my daughter had been associating. I was unable to glean much information about him from the messages, but I did manage to locate him online. That was of limited assistance, as he lacked substantial personal information available online. He was entirely unfamiliar to me. I devised a plan to engage a private investigator to gather additional information about him. I intended to pursue custody of my daughter, fully aware that I would face significant challenges as a man in this endeavor. Any piece of evidence I can obtain would be beneficial. However, I find myself in a dilemma regarding the best approach to take. I wish to ensure my daughter stays away from that man, yet I prefer to gather concrete evidence before addressing the matter with her. Should I proceed to inform her that I am aware of everything, or would it be wiser to wait for the private investigator to provide their feedback first? What steps can I take to ensure she does not take my child to her residence during this period? She had the audacity to dismiss it as if her daughter merely possessed a vivid imagination. No, that's not a figment of the imagination. A toddler expresses honesty in crayon, as their mother struggles to maintain discretion in both her actions and her words. Her daughter finds herself caught in the midst of it all, subjected to influences unknown. It appears that the moment to take action has arrived. There's no need to reveal the complete truth at this moment. Clearly communicate your boundary regarding unfamiliar men around our daughter, emphasizing that this is non-negotiable. Revision. I am truly grateful for the overwhelming support I received on my previous post. This has truly been a challenging time for me. I have been suppressing a great deal of anger regarding the thought of my wife taking our daughter to another man's home during her affair. Truthfully, it becomes quite challenging for me to simply gaze at her without losing my composure entirely. The consensus among commenters was that obtaining the PI was indeed of critical importance. I wholeheartedly concurred with that sentiment. However, my primary concern was that she might take my daughter with her on another trip to her affair partner's residence while I was at work. Fortunately, I received an excellent recommendation from someone. As I am self-employed, I have the flexibility to take time off from work as needed. I communicated with my customers regarding their outstanding orders, informing them of a brief delay caused by personal circumstances. The majority exhibited a commendable level of understanding. One of them was eager to proceed, so I issued a refund without any hard feelings on either side. I consulted with a private investigator and conveyed my requirements to him. I possessed evidence of my wife's infidelity. I required him to uncover any information he could regarding this individual. I provided a comprehensive overview of the situation. I sought to determine whether my daughter was at risk from an unsafe individual, and I was searching for any information that could provide me with an advantage in the impending custody dispute. Subsequently, I engaged a lawyer to explore my options and initiate the divorce proceedings. The subsequent task was to articulate to my wife the reasons behind my decision to refrain from going to work. That was not particularly challenging either. I informed her that I was experiencing some soreness in my elbow and that I intended to take a few days to rest it. I have experienced issues with my elbow previously, but I typically only require a few days off for recovery. Convincing her that I required a week or two of rest would be quite a challenge. Remaining at home with her presented its challenges. Each time I caught a glimpse of her, I envisioned my child in an unfamiliar living room while her mother was in the bedroom with an unknown man. I have completely lost my respect for her, and it required all my effort to maintain the facade of caring for her in any way. After several days, she began to express concern regarding my elbow's lack of recovery, or perhaps it was more akin to suspicion. I managed to divert her attention by stating that I would consult a doctor about it. I returned and informed her that it was inflamed and that I required a few more days of rest. She accepted it without question. Upon the PI's return, he provided a wealth of information regarding her new partner. Initially, he informed me that he resided in a less desirable neighborhood, located approximately 20 minutes from here. The mere sound of that was sufficient to send chills down my spine, yet the situation only escalated from there. He informed me that a domestic case had been filed against him by an ex-girlfriend 5 years prior. The court documents reveal that a dispute arose regarding the volume of the television while she was watching it. She asserted that it concluded with him pushing her against a door. He accepted a plea deal to evade incarceration, yet it remained on his record. A restraining order was also issued against him, which was approved for a duration of 6 months. I was astonished by what I was hearing. She had been taking our 3-year-old daughter to the residence of a man who had pushed a woman for turning the television volume up too high. At one point, a restraining order had been issued against him. I was not exhibiting overprotective behavior. My initial instinct regarding the situation was entirely accurate. I forwarded the information from the PI to the lawyer and expressed my desire to expedite the process of securing custody of my child away from my wife. I also expressed my intention to pursue legal action. He expressed understanding of my frustration, yet he informed me that she had not engaged in any actions that would warrant prosecution. Nevertheless, she had engaged in several actions that a custody court would likely view unfavorably. He proposed that we pursue emergency custody, and I concurred. My primary objective was to ensure that my daughter would never have to encounter him again. Given that the divorce and emergency custody hearing were both filed and underway, I determined it was the right moment to address Olivia directly. I chose the late hours of the night, when our daughter was peacefully asleep, to share everything with her. I began by admitting that my arm was in good condition. I had been remaining at home solely to monitor her closely. She appeared perplexed yet wary, as if she had an inkling of the direction the conversation was taking. I informed her that I was aware the uncle our daughter mentioned was, in fact, her affair partner, and that she had been visiting him during my work hours. She began to speak, but I interrupted, explaining that there was no use in denying it, as I had already seen the messages. She averted her gaze as she expressed her apologies. She acknowledged that it was a foolish decision, even as she was making it, and expressed her intention to seek help. I advised her against any further attempts. I was indifferent to her reasons for doing it. We had reached our conclusion, and honestly, it no longer mattered. What was significant to me was that she had put our daughter at risk in the process. She appeared taken aback, and remarked that she had always felt secure due to her presence. I inquired whether she was aware of the character of the man involved in her affair, and her expression revealed offense. She claimed she did, asserting that I was unfamiliar with him. I informed her of the findings revealed by the private investigator. He possessed a background marked by aggression, particularly towards women. I took her to the neighborhood and the building where he resided, inquiring whether it appeared to be a secure environment for our child. She remained silent. She remained focused on the aspect of domestic violence. She claimed it was impossible. I reassured her that it was indeed the case, and mentioned that it had stemmed from a television being excessively loud. I expressed to her candidly that I had no concern for his actions towards her, but I would rather be gone than allow a man of his character to mistreat my daughter in any way. Interestingly, she began to advocate for him following that incident. She expressed her disbelief that he had ever hit his ex-girlfriend, asserting that even if it were true, he had transformed into a different man since then. As she began to assert that he would never pose a threat to our child due to our love for children, I firmly instructed her to cease her remarks. She could reserve the explanation for a judge. Upon informing her of my decision to file for divorce, her expression was one of disbelief. She mentioned that we had not yet had the opportunity to discuss it in detail. She recognized her responsibility and was prepared to make a transformation. I expressed to her that I had no desire to alter her in any way. I aimed to ensure my child remained distanced from her and her boyfriend. In the following days, she received divorce papers, and a custody hearing took place. I had high hopes that the outcome would be in my favor, but the judge ultimately denied me custody of her. She acknowledged my concern and recognized that I had substantial evidence. However, she noted that there was no proof of any harm having occurred to my daughter. In the absence of that, the court would be unable to supersede Olivia's parental rights, preventing me from obtaining full custody. I was dissatisfied with the decision. I still believe it's completely unfounded. However, the ruling also yielded some positive outcomes. The judge acknowledged that it was inappropriate for her affair partner to be introduced to my daughter without my consent, and concurred that his criminal history posed a potential risk for the future. She stipulated that my daughter must not be placed in the care of the affair partner or taken to his residence, with the understanding that any breach of this directive would lead to a reassessment of the custody arrangement. I embraced the modest triumph and made it my own. Naturally, individuals who engage in deceit are often perceived as those who adhere to the rules, which left me concerned that she might discreetly visit her affair partner's residence. Despite the challenges I faced, I chose to remain at home. And I remained there solely to ensure her safety. My intention was never to leave that house without having custody of my daughter. Living with a wife I no longer loved had become uncomfortable. She navigated our interactions with great caution, often treading lightly. Although I refrained from raising my voice, she could sense the depth of my anger towards her. She persistently attempted to convey that the affair had concluded and that she was prepared for transformation, yet I did not afford her the opportunity. I frequently overlooked her whenever possible. I interacted with her as one might with an unpleasant roommate, engaging only when absolutely necessary. I persisted in my endeavors from my home workspace, engaging in projects that allowed me to remain away from the workshop. Although it was a financial setback, the investment proved worthwhile as it allowed me to monitor her and ensure that her affair partner no longer visited our home. I understood that the court order would likely deter her from introducing him to my daughter again, yet I was not willing to take any risks. My trust in her has completely eroded. Even though Olivia assured me that she had ended her relationship with her affair partner, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was not being truthful. Occasionally, she would leave the house, elegantly attired, as though she had an audience to captivate. She chose not to take our daughter with her, yet my concerns remained. If she remained connected to this man, it would be crucial for the forthcoming custody hearing. The court would seek clarification on whether she intends to continue exposing our daughter to him. I had my private investigator conduct further inquiries. The task at hand was simply to verify if she was still in a relationship with him. He responded to me within a few days, and his findings were not unexpected. Olivia continued her relationship with the guy, but there was more to the story. He had also noted a series of various women and unseemly men arriving at his apartment at different intervals. He conducted thorough research on those individuals and discovered that some of them had drug-related charges. This served as additional evidence of an unsuitable environment for my daughter. The private investigator possessed photographic evidence of all pertinent details, which I subsequently forwarded to my attorney. During the upcoming custody hearing, we submitted all of our evidence. This time, the judge was unreserved. She acknowledged that maintaining her relationship with him made it unrealistic to anticipate no interaction between her affair partner and my daughter. The judge referenced his previous domestic violence conviction and the presence of individuals with drug charges at his residence as indicators of her poor judgment. I received physical custody of my daughter, while Olivia was permitted supervised visitation. She might have the opportunity for unsupervised visits in the future, contingent upon the circumstances, but my attorney confidently informed me that her prospects of obtaining even partial custody of our daughter were exceedingly low. I am still in disbelief that I emerged victorious. Olivia made several missteps, and had it not been for those, we could have found ourselves in a situation of shared custody, despite the numerous factors that should have worked against us. I am simply grateful that the outcome unfolded as it did. Raising a child of her age independently has presented its challenges. A considerable number of lifestyle adjustments have been necessary. I have made some adjustments to my home workshop to accommodate larger projects at home. I have been fortunate to have incredibly supportive family members who are always ready to step in for me as needed. When I must attend the workshop, I leave my daughter with either my mother or my sister, who is a stay-at-home mom caring for her own child. Olivia and her family have portrayed me as a villain for my actions. I have articulated the risks she posed to my daughter on several occasions, and even proposed to present the photographic evidence, yet they remain unconvinced. Ultimately, I decided to block all of their numbers. The sole individual I truly needed to engage with among them was Olivia, and that was solely due to her visitation rights. Whenever she encounters me, she treats me as if I were the embodiment of evil, which is quite amusing, given her current partner. Indeed, despite assuring me that their relationship has concluded, she remains with him. I engaged a private investigator once again to ensure our evidence remains current, as she has been threatening to file an appeal. She continues to visit him and recently bailed him out of jail for his initial drug possession charge just a week ago. Time seems to fly as they mature rapidly. I feel no empathy whatsoever for Olivia. My daughter is the true victim in this situation. She is still trying to grasp the situation, and it has been challenging to convey to her the reasons behind not being able to see her mom consistently. It is truly distressing to witness her tears or outbursts stemming from her longing for her mother. However, I recognize that this is a preferable situation compared to the alternative of introducing her to the company her mother currently keeps. I have been collaborating with a therapist who is guiding me in articulating my thoughts and addressing her needs during this sensitive time. His guidance has proven to be essential in assisting my daughter and me as we navigate our new lives. Based on my observations of Olivia during visitation, she appears to be struggling. I am indifferent. She is not my responsibility to address. She placed my daughter at risk, and she discovered the consequences of provoking a father. It is truly astonishing that she showed no hesitation in introducing your daughter to a man with a history of domestic violence. That does not reflect poor judgment. This constitutes active negligence. I am indifferent to her perceptions of his reformation. He has undergone a transformation. It falls short. What was the judge's initial ruling? A disheartening reminder that the system often requires tangible evidence of harm before taking action on behalf of your child. What about her family? Naturally, they betrayed you. That is the role of enablers. They prefer to hold on to the illusion that she is a tragic, misunderstood angel. Do you possess a comparable narrative? We invite you to share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. We appreciate your presence with us today on our space. We invite you to like and subscribe, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to stay updated on our upcoming video. Until we meet again.